Okay, drafting students, I had a couple of questions about the section view Unit 7 and the assignments and what you're supposed to do. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to explain a few things. And in your Unit 7 drafting, it actually takes you to this slideshow that I found, which is actually pretty good at explaining what this is all about. But there's a couple of highlights here. On slide 12, it basically shows the essence of what the whole sectional view really looks like. So you can see that, I'll see if I can enlarge this. You can see that this cutting plane basically cuts this object in half, and then you have this section view. And there's a couple of things to notice here. Obviously you're going to have something like this, and that's actually behind your cut plane. So keep that in mind, that it's actually behind your cut plane, and that's going to show up on your sectional view. The other thing is that where that cut plane cuts, you can see that everything in the section view is actually encased by a distinct line. So keep that in mind as well as we go through. Okay, and this shows the same kind of thing. This one, it's really key to show how a sectional view is created. So on your drawings, you're going to see this cut line, which is basically establishes your cut plane, and this little arrow on your cut plane, or on your cut line, sorry, shows at which direction you're looking at. So basically you're going to be cutting this part of the object away and looking at the object from here. Notice again that distinct line that defines what's been cut away. Okay, that line is all around. And then notice these lines here, and these would be called section lines. And what's really important about that is it tells you what material you've basically been cut away. So usually you're trying to indicate like a part or something like that, and that part's made out of some sort of material. And this actually tells you what material it is. Okay, so this diagram or this slide shows it maybe even a little bit better. So you have your cut line, and basically this chunk is going to be taken away, and you're going to be looking, because the arrows, you're going to be looking at the portion that's kept, and that's indicated on this side right here. So basically we're looking at this, and again, these section lines indicate the type of material it is. Okay, this slide is useful too because it shows you how to make the section lines. The section lines are thin. They're chosen according to the material of the object, and you'd simply have to look that up on the PDF that I gave you. And they're generally drawn at a 45-degree angle, and they're parallel to one another. Okay, common section lines. If you see this, you're looking at a cast iron part versus steel, and versus brass, bronze, or copper. Again, notice that they're at 45-degree angles and they're parallel to one another. Okay, rubber, plastic, and electrical insulation. Zinc and lead, concrete. Okay, this particular slide show that I found on SlideShare has these 4 rules of sectioning, and it does a pretty good job of outlining what it is that you need to do when you're doing your drawing. But it can sound kind of confusing at first, but probably not if you look at it a little bit more closely. So rule 1, a section lined area is always completely bounded by a visible outline. Remember I said I would refer back to that. Okay, so notice that the section area, so you have obviously this section here, you can tell by the crosshatch pattern, okay, and it is completely bound by a visible outline. And that makes sense because if you're cutting it away, that sectional pattern is always going to be completely bound by some sort of outline. Okay, number 2, the section lines in all areas should be parallel. Section lines shown in opposite directions indicate a different part. Okay, so the section lines here are all parallel to one another. Rule 3, all visible edges behind the cutting plane should be shown. So remember when I said, when I looked at that one part and I said that there's going to be edges behind where you cut away, and those should be shown. So obviously you're going to need that, and they're going to exist behind the part that you've actually cut away. Okay, and then rule 4, hidden features should be omitted. So if you can't see it, so if it's behind like a face that you've cut away and you can't see that, it should be omitted in all areas of the section view. The only exceptions are threads, and what they're talking about there is like if you have a threaded section for a bolt or something like that, and broken out sections, pieces that have been broken out of the part. Okay, the types of sections that we'll be dealing with: the full section and the half section. So the full section is just that cutting plane that we talked about. It cuts right through the object. So you have basically two halves to that object. That doesn't mean that they would be symmetrical. It just means that they would pass right through the object. All right, now some of you might have noticed that I believe it's 7.1, the upload is actually this exercise. You can go ahead and take a look at it. That's fine, because 7.4 you're going to have to produce your own drawing anyways. So given the top and right section or right side views, sketch the front view as a full section, and the material is steel. So what you're taking a look at is you're given the top view, you're given the right side view, and you're supposed to sketch this front view as a full section. So normally you would just put this, right, as your front view. You would probably have some hidden lines here that you would see, and that would basically be about it. However, now it's asking you to do a section view. So this is your cut plane, and you can see that it is a full section because it passes right through the entire object. So now what you have to draw is not this face like you would normally on a front view, but you're drawing this face, which is the cut view or the cut plane. Okay, so the first thing it says, fill in the visible lines in the front full section view. So if you take this cut plane, and basically it's cutting it right through the middle right here. Okay, what would you see if you were looking at this section view? So what would be the visible lines? And the first ones would be these that would be filled in. All right, so you would actually see those lines, and what's left is you're going to have what's been cut away. This area right here would actually be behind your cut plane. These areas, this area as well, would be behind the cut plane. These areas would be your section views. Okay, so then it says fill in the section lines, and remember that your material is steel. So this is where we're going to have a crosshatch pattern based on what's been cut away. And you can see that for steel, obviously we use these crosshatch pattern lines, and that's basically it. That's all that this assignment was asking you to do. Okay, and it just remembers section lines are bounded by visible lines. Okay, so your visible lines always bind your section lines. That makes sense, right? If you're cutting that piece away. And visible features behind the cutting plane are shown. So remember, this part right here is actually this, right? And that's behind the cut line, which would be right here. So as you can see, activity 7.1, I think I might have said 7.2, but 7.1 is actually what I just showed you. Okay, so you're looking at this object, you're cutting full section, all right? You're drawing your visible lines first after what you cut away, and then you're doing your sectional view after. Okay, 7.2 is a continuation, I guess. 7.3, a little bit different. Where this is we're actually looking at a half section, and it's the same thing though. So fill in your visible lines first. So remember, you're looking at this part of it and this, so you're actually taking a chunk out. So fill in the visible lines first, and then your section lines after. And that is it for 7.3. So you can print these out. Probably a good idea to put them on your drafting board to be able to draw your parallel lines. So that was section 7.1 would be full section, 7.2 section, or assignment 7.3 the half section, And then for 7.4, it says for this activity, use your manual drafting equipment to produce an orthographic drawing of a simple object or a part. Drawing must include the required components, so like the title block and all that stuff. In addition to your drawing, it must include a full or half section view as well. So same thing, you can probably do your front view as a front section view. And to make it simple, you could probably just do a full sectional view instead of a half section. And that should be it. Hopefully, if you upload that, that's it for Unit 7. Unit 8 is just that career assignment, and then you're actually done drafting 10. There is no final exam in this course.